Good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Swadikap. First of all, allow me to welcome all of you to the third series of the IMT-GT video conference, Managing the Impact of COVID-19 on Human Resources Development, Education and Cultural Cooperation. This is very relevant topic to be discussed this morning, particularly on the issue of high employment rate due to the economic downturn under the COVID-19. I would like also to welcome again Bapak Budi Hartawan, Secretary General Ministry of Manpower Republik Indonesia, and also Ibu Indah Anggoro Putri, Chairperson of the Working Group Human Resources Development, Education and Culture, and also she is Head of International Cooperation Bureau in Ministry of Manpower Indonesia. Distinguished speakers, as I mentioned earlier, that I have mentioned earlier in advance. Thank you for your support and acceptance to be the speaker in this video conference. COVID-19 that has spread since December 2019 has infected almost 11 million and taken a life of more than 500,000 people globally, has also impacted to the economy. Our sub-region IMT-GT is no exception of that. The crisis has pushing many families trapped into poverty due to many has lost jobs since then. Based on the statistic by GM Analytic, in Malaysia, for instance, 3 out of 5 workers, mostly aged below 40, lost their job in the recent months. 50% of informal workers lost their business and face a reduction in income. Meanwhile, in Indonesia, what we noticed in April 2020, over 1.2 million workers have been taught to stay at home or have been laid off as a result of the pandemic. As for the Thailand, the unemployment rate reached nearly 10%. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong later on. And based on the research by Kasingkon Research Center. Since the spread of COVID-19 to our sub-region, many companies has reduced its operation, and even worse, some have closed its operation, including SMEs. This is indeed very worrying situation, as most of our people in the sub-region involved in the same SMEs and also in informal sectors. The government has taken various actions to stimulate the economy and employment, both in fiscal and monetary policy. Nevertheless, this may not be sufficient to secure the job for everyone. Therefore, this video conference will share countries' experience both from government and private sector on the challenges arise from the COVID-19. In this unprecedented crisis, we should learn from each other to overcome and get through this difficult time. We hope at the end of the session, we would be able to explore potential collaboration to reduce the impact of COVID-19 to our common concern. As we believe in the middle of difficulties lies opportunities. Once again, thank you. I'm looking forward for the session. Thank you so much again. And now, with your permission, Honorable Bapak Budi Hartawan, I invite you to deliver your remark and at the same time to inaugurate this video conference. So the floor is yours, Honorable.
Thank you, Chair. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Honorable Head of Delegates of the IMT-GT Working Group on Human Resources Development, Education and Culture Cooperation from Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. Honorable Director of CIMT, speakers from the Malaysian Employer Federations, Uninet, and JBC, delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning from Jakarta. First of all, on behalf of the Ministry of manpower of the government of Indonesia, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to CIMT for organizing the IMT-GT video conference, managing the impact of COVID-19 on human resource development, education, and culture cooperation. I also convey my sincere appreciation for all participants to attend this virtual meeting. I hope all of us will be blessed with good health. Ladies and gentlemen, today we acknowledge that the threat of COVID-19 is not over yet. Thus, our awareness and adherence to health protocols must become our habits rather than merely by demands. This has required us to adapt to new habits of interactions, which is commonly known as the new normal life. I believe that all countries has taken responsive measures to mitigate the crisis caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic has become our wake-up calls for strengthening our collaborations among neighboring countries, especially in the framework of IMT-GT cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, the Asian Development Bank has predicted that economic activity in the Southeast Asia will contract by 2.7% in 2020. Meanwhile, ILO reported that workers in the Asian regions have experienced a decline or loss of income, as well as loss of social protections, and this risk is higher for female migrant workers. The COVID-19 pandemic also poses new challenges in the employment sector, including obstructions to global supply chain and decline in production due to large-scale social restrictions and limitation on people's as well as laborers' mobility. This has disrupted businesses continuity, which will be followed by a decrease of income for workers and their families. This crisis has not only affected the formal sector, but also informal sector and certain groups of workers, such as gig economy workers, young workers, and elderly workers. Communities in the border regions are also affected by this crisis because their economy is still highly dependent on trade interactions and the people mobility across country. Since the COVID-19 pandemic is followed by the implementation of tighter cross-border policies, economic conditions at the borders are considered to be increasingly difficult, which disrupts the society's economic security. On the other hand, this pandemic crisis has opened up new opportunities in the field of employment. During this transition to the new normal life, all stakeholders are encouraged to adapt quickly in an effort to take advantage of these opportunities through an identification of future works, including strengthening the existence of MSMEs in the term of finance, human resources, and marketing by the utilization of digital technology. Ladies and gentlemen, we must be able to build back better. The economy must continue to run and move on from the COVID-19 pandemic. By promoting the spirit and solidarity of the sub-regions, IMT-GT is expected to become a potential cooperation forum that strives to make an integrated, inclusive, innovative, and sustainable IMT-GT region, especially in empowering and people-to-people connectivity in an effort to deal with this pandemic crisis. This working group is also expected to be able to answer challenges in the transition period towards the new normal, where there will be restrictions on economic, educational, social, cultural, and transportation activities. To answer those challenges, we propose strategic steps to be taken, such as ensuring people mobility and connectivity to contribute towards economic recovery through strategic partners with the Joint Business Council and the UNINET, ensuring the protections of workers as well as migrant workers and communities through appropriate policies and new normal principles, including minimizing the risk of COVID-19 spread in communities, providing a flexible and accessible platform for labor market information that can be utilized by community at the borders, identifying the demand for skill through capacity building and the exchange of information and knowledge to meet future works qualification. Promoting cooperation in socio-economic activities by involving youth and other social organizations and increasing capacity for the use of technology and information in communities and small and medium enterprises to be more active in the era of digital economy. Ladies and gentlemen, human resource development, education, and culture is an enabler to the IMT-GT cooperation. Thus, this working group must play an active role in contributing to economic growth in the IMT-GT sub-regions, especially the post-COVID-19 pandemic period. This working group is also expected to be able to optimize the implementation of existing activities in the 2017-2021 implementation blueprint, as well as new potential activities as an effort toward economic recovery that would come up from this working group. In addition, as part of the effort to increase cooperation in this working group, I encourage the involvement of JBC and UNINET to jointly develop an economic recovery strategy in the IMT-GT regions by utilizing technology through digital platforms. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, I hope that this video conference will be productive and produce concrete action to build better post-COVID-19 pandemic. I thank you and wish you have a fruitful discussions. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, Pak Sekjen, Honorable Bapak Budi Hartawan, Secretary General, Ministry of Manpower Indonesia, for your important remarks and your highlights you conveyed to us just now. Indeed, as you mentioned, Pak Sekjen, we have to promote, to strengthen more collaboration among the three countries in order to overcome this difficult time, challenges in this difficult time. So CIMT, in collaboration with working group, will join hand how to respond to the new challenges, the new normal, and also how to seek new opportunities of collaboration in the years to come. So we will do our best for this one, Pak Sekjen, inshallah, together with the working group or HRDEC. Pak Sekjen, I believe that you are very busy, but before you left this conference, Pak Sekjen, may I request you, together with all of our colleagues, to have the photo session. But photo session will be conducted also virtually. Everything virtually, Pak Sekjen, for this one.
Yes.
So in this, may I request you to have like this. This is the symbol of our IMT-GT logo. So please do like this, all of you. We will take the picture.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pak Sarjan, again. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Che.
Thank you, Pak. And now for the next session, I will hand over the floor to the chair of the working group, Ibu Putri, who is going to lead to chair the session Agenda 3 until Agenda 6. And please don't forget, we will have also a Q&A later on Agenda 6. So to participants who anybody want to ask questions to our speakers, so you have time to do that. So before I hand over the floor to Ibu Putri, may I invite some colleague to announce some housekeeping, please.
Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the IMT-GT video conference series, Managing the Impact of COVID-19. Before we proceed with our session, allow me to make some housekeeping announcements. For the speaker, we will ring the bell once for the first 12 minutes of your presentation, and we will ring the bell 3 times once the time is up. I would like to kindly request from the participant to kindly switch off the microphone throughout the session. Should you have any question and comment, kindly type in the chat box, state your name and destination, and we will respond accordingly. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Robita, for the housekeeping arrangement of our conference for today. Now, without further ado, I will hand over the microphone to Ibu Putri. The floor is yours, Ibu, please.
Thank you, Bapak Firdaus, Mr. Firdaus from the CIMT. I just would like to check, is my voice clear enough? Because I had a small technical problem this morning. Is everybody can hear my voice?
Yes, very clear, Ibu. Yes, go ahead.
Okay,
yes.
Good. Thank you. So once again, very good morning to all of you, distinguished delegates, participants from Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. Allow me, I am the head of International Cooperation Bureau from the Ministry of Manpower, Indonesia. I would like to seeking your permissions, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished delegates, to continue lead this meeting, a very special meeting in this very hurtful situations when we all having difficulty during the pandemic COVID-19. I would like also to say a good morning to head of delegations from Malaysia. We have Dr. Ridwan Kuzairi. Pak Dato Ridwan Kuzairi. Good morning, Bapak. Can you hear my voice, Bapak?
Good morning, Ibu Putri. Good morning.
How are you, Bapak?
Assalamualaikum. I'm very good. But I would like to reintroduce again. This is Dr. Mazni. Dr. Mazni has just joined the Ministry of Human Resources. She is the Undersecretary for the Policy Division. They are my bosses. Next to her is Mrs. Azura. She's the Deputy Undersecretary. So from going forward, I'll be reporting to them with regards to IMT-GT.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Bapak. Thank you, Bapak. And very happy to see all faces in a happy and healthy situation. I do hope that we continue healthy and happy also. And let me also say hello and good morning to my sister, the head of delegates from Thailand, Miss Sasistorn Wongera Kochit, the Deputy Director General of Thailand International Cooperation Agency. Very good morning, sister.
Morning. Morning.
How are you?
Good.
It's good to see you. Happy and healthy always. Okay, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I also with some of brother and sisters from 10 provinces in Sumatra, as they are the core members of the in the IMT-GT from Indonesia. So let me just continue this meeting by coming into the agenda 3, which is the sharing experiences. You know that we all is currently having a very quite difficult moment because of the pandemic COVID-19. And we all realize that this pandemic COVID-19 has been hit to our labor market. Indeed, we have been doing some of the policy and programs to recover of this pandemic so we can moving on from these difficult situations. So I would like to take this opportunity by giving each country to share all the challenges, the difficulty that we are been facing now, and also what kind of strategy, policy, and actions that each country has been taken at the moment. So with your permission, I would like to starting from my country, from Indonesia, because I chairing this meeting, but I also the head of Indonesian delegation. So allow me to starting this session by sharing all the situation that Indonesia is currently having and planning for recovering from the pandemic COVID-19. Is it okay for you? Starting first.
I cannot hear you.
I cannot
Hello?
hear. Excuse me,
Please.
Putri,
Yes, please.
we cannot hear you.
Oh, really? Can you?
No,
You
now,
cannot hear me?
that's okay now. Okay.
Oh,
It's
okay,
now.
okay.
It's okay now, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, on behalf of the government of Indonesia, let me share the situations during this pandemic COVID-19 and some policies that we've been taking over now. We're starting from the slide 1. Okay, this is a picture that the pandemic COVID-19 is hitting our, it's not only the health situation in national level, but also I'm trying to show you how big the impact of the pandemic COVID-19 to each province in Sumatra. You know that for Indonesia, the core members of the IMT-GT is actually the 10 provinces in Sumatra, starting from north of Sumatra, Banda Aceh, we have Aceh, and then continue to North Sumatra province itself, Medan, and then continue to Sumatra Barat, West Sumatra, as you can see through the figure, yeah, that the biggest number of the COVID-19 has been hit to the province of South Sumatra, right? Yeah. And then we also have the smallest impact of the COVID-19 in terms of the number of the people being hit by the COVID-19. It happened in Aceh.
Bu Putri.
Yes, yeah, Pak.
We can see your slide, Bu. Is it possible to share with us?
Oh, okay. Sorry. Just a minute.
Yeah.
Just a minute, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no problem.
How about now? Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Is it clear? My slide, can you see?
Okay.
Okay, good. Yeah, let me just continue, yeah?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah, let me just repeat. So today we are still fighting against the COVID-19 pandemic that is affecting our whole life. In Indonesia, the number of confirmed cases is more than 60,000 cases in accumulation. More than 30,000 of them recovered, while sadly to say that 3,000 of people are losing their lives. So you can see through the slides, the spread of the virus of COVID-19 in each provinces in Sumatra. Next slide, please. We recognize that the outbreak has been significantly disrupting our trade and economic activities. For business, more than 110,000 enterprises affected, both for formal and informal economies. Furthermore, if we refer to the OECD report, that OECD report has predicted Indonesia will experiencing economic contraction of 3.9% this year. We also have another figure from IMF that our economic growth will facing bit worse challenges. The challenge faced by the business sectors will inevitably affected by the workers. Based on the data collected by Ministry of Manpower, the number of workers terminated and temporarily or permanently laid off because of COVID-19 has reached 1.7 million workers, with more than 100,000 terminated and approximately 1.4 million temporarily or permanently laid off either formal and informal sectors. Although we still find the amount of workers being temporarily or permanently laid off to the greater, the government of Indonesia strives to ensure that these laid-off workers do not become or add to the amount of terminated workers. Next slide, please. The government of Indonesia has taken strategic efforts to handling the impact of COVID-19 pandemic through the allocations of our national budget. Is about totally Indonesian rupiah 695 trillion rupiahs, or it's about equivalent to US dollar 48.4 billion. The national budget, this is quite big of our national budget. We spread to some of the important sectors that we think is get a very hard bit situations from the pandemic COVID-19. For the health sector, we allocated about 6.1 billion US dollars. We also provided incentive for small, medium enterprises and cooperative for about US dollar 8.6 billion. For the social safety net, we already allocated for 14.2 billion. And for the financial support for corporations, the country already allocated for about 3.7 billion US dollar. While for the incentive to our business, especially for the medium and small business, the country already allocated for about $8.4 billion. And for the ministries, institutions, and the local government sector, where they still have to continue their services, we already allocated also for about $7.4 billion US dollar. So this figure of the national budget that we already provided for our recovery process of the pandemic COVID-19 is actually for national level, not only for the manpower. So I just would like to share the figures, how serious we've been doing and allocating our budget for these hurtful situations. Next, please. In national level, the government of Indonesia also has strategic policy to mitigate the impact of COVID pandemic on employment. So let me just coming into the employment issues. The first thing that we've been doing now is allocating budget to handle COVID-19 in the amount about 46.6 billion US dollar, which includes economic stimuli for the businesses with a total of 17.2 million. The economic stimuli are expected to alleviate the burden of businesses to discourage them from laying off or terminating their workers. And then we're also providing programs in the form of income tax incentive, loan or credit repayment relaxation. And in the near future, inshallah, we will issuing policy to provide relaxations for labor social security contribution fees to alleviate about 56 million workers in the formal sectors. So I just happy to share with you about some activities on the slide that we are now, some of the policy that we are doing now on the employment issues. Next, we also providing a social safety net for workers in the informal sector. The government provided social assistance to about 70 million informal workers who are categorized as poor and vulnerable people. We also prioritizing the provision of training incentive through what we call by pre-employment card or Kartu Prakerja program for those who've been laid off during this pandemic situation. The government of Indonesia also provided training incentive with target about 3.5 billion to 5.6 million beneficiaries this year. And then we also increasing program to expand our employment opportunities to the labor market, such as we are doing a cash for work, labor-intensive program, applied technology independent workers, and entrepreneurship development. And also this program is actually in order to design to absorb our manpower. And last but not least, we also providing better protecting for our Indonesian migrant workers, including those who have returned to Indonesia and those who remain abroad. And before I finish, we also providing guidelines for our business communities in Asia and workers by giving them better awareness on the social and safety and health, especially during this recovery process of the pandemic and also for the coming new normal life. So labor protections and also social safety net is becoming more important during this recovery program of the pandemic. Next. Next, please. Okay, we also doing, increasing our social dialogue. You know that social dialogue is, we believe is a main instrument, the best instrument during these difficult situations. Productive social dialogue between employer and employee. We encourage them to do this in these situations. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I would like also to share some of the activities in the provinces level or local government, because when we are talking about IMT-GT, is actually local government in the 10 provinces of Sumatra. So how far this national policy I just mentioned a few minutes ago has been implementing and this cascading in the province level or local government level. So if you can see on the screen that the 10 provinces in Sumatra, they're doing a quite very good activities and program following what the President Joko Widodo has been mandated and give directions. The first that we can see that in local government level, some of rapid actions has taken by local government in 10 provinces in Sumatra. For example, they are doing like establishing COVID-19 pandemic response acceleration task force, or in bahasa Indonesia and bahasa Melayu we call by gugus tugas percepatan penanganan COVID-19. And they're also doing providing a social safety net for vulnerable group in their daerah, in their local government. And they're also doing adding the number of hospital to take care of COVID-19 suspected. So actually we like doing shifting for all the hospitals to be ready to accept the patient from the COVID-19. They're also doing restricting the public traveling, not only at the land, sea, but also air traveling. And they also, the local government also providing advocating to the company to have their commitment, not laying off and terminating the workers. And the local government also ensuring the learning process keep continue through online methods. The students, they have to stay at home until the end of this year, but the learning processes to be continue by using virtual training, virtual learning. The local government also doing temporary closing the tourism spots and worship places, ensuring civil society activities, functioning the hotel as places for our medical workers handling COVID-19 patients. Because of tourism is going down and some of the hotels, they have to close the hotel, but the local government encourage most of the hotels in the area to accept our medical workers to get a rest during their duty in the hospital. The local government also providing tax relaxation and credit for motorcycle loan payment, and also controlling the application of health protocol in all economic sector, especially in this new normal life. So Indonesia sees that through sub-regional solidarity and goodwilling among us, among Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand, we can recover and build back better our social and economic condition, especially on our employment sector. So this is our presentations from Indonesia. So I do hope that this can be encourage of all of us to continue in our collaboration. So let me now invite Malaysia to continue share your policy and your experience during this pandemic COVID-19. Allow me to invite Dr. Masni binti Abdul Majid the Undersecretary Policy Division, Ministry of Human Resources, Malaysia. Please, Pak Masni, the floor is yours. Malaysia, please, Malaysia, Bapak Masni.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Speakers, Ms. Indah Anggur Putri, Head of International Cooperation Bureau, and also Mrs. Sasiton Wong Wee Rachat Kit, Deputy Director General. I hope I got your name right.
That's right.
Okay, I'm Normazi Abdul Majid from the Undersecretary of the Policy Division MOHR Malaysia. I'm happy to announce that today Malaysia has only 6 new cases for COVID-19, where 4 cases are contracted abroad and only 2 new cases are locally contracted. I'll share with you some of our measures taken by the government to combat COVID-19. Starting from the 18th of March 2020, the government has implemented a preventive measure in response to COVID-19 pandemic, also known as the Movement Control Order or the Perintah Kawalan Pergerakan Malaysia 2020. This involves following restrictions. For example, a general prohibition of mass movements and gatherings across the country, including religious, sports, social and cultural activities. And to enforce this prohibition, all houses of worship and business premises are closed, except for supermarkets, public markets, grocery stores and convenience stores selling everyday necessities. And specifically for Muslims, there is an adjournment of all religious activities in mosques, including Friday prayers, which is in line with the decision made by a special Muzakara committee meeting of the National Fatwa Council. Secondly, we also have sanctions covering all Malaysians travelling abroad. For those who have just returned from overseas, they are required to undergo a health check and also a 14-day quarantine or self-quarantine. And also restrictions on the entry of all tourists and foreign visitors into the country. Closure of all kindergartens, government and private schools, including daily schools, boarding schools, international schools, Tafi centers and other primary, secondary and pre-university institutions. Closure of all public and private higher education institutions and skill training institutes nationwide. And also closure of all government and private premises except those who are involved in essential services. And following that, the Prime Minister then announced the Conditional Movement Control Order, or the CMCO, relaxation of regulation regarding the MCO, which with its main goal to reopen the national economy in a controlled manner. Can you see the slides?
Yeah, we can see. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. The CMCO, which started on 4th of May, included measures such as opening most of the economic sectors and activities allowed to operate while observing the business standard operation procedures, such as social distancing and recording the names and telephone numbers of customers and the dates of their visits. Sports activities involving large gatherings, body contact and other risks of infection are not allowed, including all indoor and stadium sports events. Outdoor sports activities which do not involve body contact in small groups without an audience and involving not more than 10 persons are allowed on the condition that social distancing is practiced. Then also the social, community and cultural events which involve large gatherings as well as all types of official events and assemblies are not permitted. And religious activities and all congregational or assembly activities in houses of worship are also not allowed. And interstate travel is also not allowed, including our Balik Kampung tradition for the Eid al-Fitri. also not allowed. So we had our Hari Raya celebrations in our own houses, keeping to ourselves and also our own families. And the conditional movement control order ended on 9th of June. And the country is now into the recovery movement control order, or known as the RMCO, which is going to last from 10th June until 31st August. Then the Prime Minister also announced that interstate travel is now allowed, except in areas remaining under the enhanced movement control order. Now, I would like to go into some of the initiatives that the ministry or the government has taken during the MCO in order to mitigate the effect of the pandemic to our economy, and also the issues of retrenchments that we are facing now. The first economic stimulus package announced on 27 February 2020 sought to alleviate the pandemic's immediate impact upon the tourism industry. As the COVID-19 outbreak worsened and the MCO was implemented, this necessarily impacted the broader economy, precipitating the issuance of a second economic stimulus package on the 27th of March and a third package on the 6th of April 2020. Under the second economic stimulus package, the wage subsidy program through the Social Security Organization, or SOCSO, was introduced by the government to prevent large-scale retrenchment by funding a portion of the employees' wages available to all businesses, regardless of nature of size, the nature of the business or the size of the business. The government contributes Ringgit Malaysia 600 per month towards the salary of each local employee who earns a salary of Ringgit Malaysia 4,000 or less, up to a maximum of 200 employees. However, stringent conditions apply, as businesses other than those with less than 75 employees must show a decline in revenue or income of more than 50% since 1st January 2020, and further are prohibited from reducing salaries, retrenching, or imposing no pay leave upon employees for at least 6 months. MOHR is now also extending the wage subsidy program, since it will help save the jobs of more than 2.7 million local workers, especially in the small and medium enterprises in sectors prohibited from operating during CMCO and tourism-related sectors. The wage subsidy program seeks to help businesses retain their workers and alleviate their cash flow. In addition to retaining workers, MOHR is also looking at creating jobs and encouraging placement through the hiring incentive program, also managed by SOCSO. The program aims to provide jobs to 300,000 job seekers, where under this initiative, employers are given direct cash incentives if they hire Malaysian workers, including apprentices, those below 40 years old, as well as those above 40 or persons with disabilities. And furthermore, the government through Penjana also emphasizes training in terms of reskilling and upskilling of Malaysians to enhance the employability of the unemployed, particularly the school leavers and fresh graduates, implemented in collaboration with various ministries and agencies, including the Human Resource Development Fund under the ministry. The various programs are expected to benefit some 200,000 youth and also unemployed workers. So against the backdrop of economic recovery, the skilled Malaysian workers produced from these initiatives, coupled with other programs to assist and strengthen businesses in the country, as outlined under Penjana, are expected to create more jobs down the road. And the initiatives to empower Malaysians in gig economies, such as the Global Online Workforce, our GLOBE program, and the Social Security coverage for gig workers under SOCSO's Self-Employed Social Security Scheme, are also among other efforts to create jobs in the country. So this is all I have from Malaysia today to share with you. I hope we can further assist in developing further cooperation between the countries involved in IMT-GT on especially on combating COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Masni from Malaysia for sharing your experience and also policy in these hurtful situations. Let me continue to invite from Thailand. We have Ibu or Miss Sasitorn to deliver your policy and experience. Please, Ibu from Thailand.
Okay. Good morning to all of you. First of all, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Sasitorn Wangweerchotgit, Deputy Director General of Thailand International Cooperation Agency, or THAICAM, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Thailand. I'm here today together with a representative from the Ministry of Labor and also from the National Economic and Social Development Board. Listening from the previous speakers, I found that they contribute a lot as it provides value experience and practical measures in each country. So Thailand experience may be similar to some of those views. And allow me to share some statistics. Sorry that I didn't have the slide.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, the situation of the coronavirus in state and local quarantine data since the beginning of February to the end of June, there were 232 confirmed cases in the quarantine areas. 174 patients were killed. Most of them are female, and average age is about 39 years old. The Thai nationality that is a patient with 99.1%. Apart from that is America and England. The morbidity rate in quarantine place is 232 per about 100. That's about 0.48%. Well, now Thailand would like to share experience, but I would like to begin by reiterating part of my Prime Minister, His Excellency Prayut Chan-o-cha's remark at the 76th session of the United Nations and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific in May this year. He said that never in our history have faced such a major challenge as the COVID-19 pandemic. This pandemic has brought about drastic change to our economies and societies and will force us to adapt and change our way of life. In Thailand, we have to comply with the so-called new normal, like every country, such as social distancing, wearing masks, work from home. And during severe situation of pandemic, the government has undertaken upstream, midstream, and downstream measures, including screening and restriction of international travel, and the Stay Home, Stop Disease for the Nation campaign. Health personnel work very hard to ensure adequate medical services. The accurate and transparent information has been announced and reported to public every morning through the spokesman from the Center of the COVID-19 Situation Administration to ensure people of the Thai nation's confidence for what they can contain the outbreak, but people must not let down their guard. Have to, to protect themselves at all times. Moreover, Thailand's COVID-19 response has been supported by the promotion of community participation. More than 1 million village health volunteers nationwide and additional 15,000 public health volunteers in Bangkok have been working on the front line, often at great risk to themselves, by helping to disseminate correct knowledge and conducting house-to-house visits to monitor the health of the community people. Besides, the government provides medical treatment for both Thai and non-Thai patients residing in Thailand, including migrants. Other remedial measures to alleviate social and economic effects have also been provided. The most worry of the Thai government is that COVID-19 crisis not only has affected national and global economies, but also the achievement of the SDGs. However, the government has to redirect the policy in order to minimize negative impact from COVID-19 to focus on 4 priorities, which are health security, job security, food security, and energy security. In the first place, the impact from the government's measures in health management, such as lock down the country to prevent imported spreader, curfew, wearing masks at all times when going out, temporarily closing down shopping mall and market, as well as street traders also has to close down, resulted in 2 serious things in Thailand. First, the workers are laid off, approximately 10 million people unemployed. Second, workers from neighboring countries migrated back to their hometown. So Thailand lack of necessary workers in specific areas. This labor movement and shortage make a slowdown and recessive economy in Thailand and the sub-region. It hit hardly on small and medium enterprises, but not big investors or big companies. The Ministry of Labor is aware of these problems and initiate online and on-site training courses for unemployed people in Thailand on voluntary basis. The courses are designed to strengthen people's capacity, which may need to be reskilled, upskilled, and new skill in response to the changing business, and in order to seek for new employment, or else start their own business or self-employed. And the Thai government also offered 3 months financial support package to Thai citizens who have lost jobs, which is monthly 5,000 baht compensation scheme due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The government also requests the company to reduce operation hours or temporarily reduce wage and other benefits instead of laid off their employees. The Ministry of Labor of Thailand also drives self-employment, which made farming and conduct freelance occupation training such as bakery, barista, local product processing on online business. At this time, we realized that we need to utilize the full potential of digital economy, which could mitigate economic impacts and disruptions to the supply chain. The local or community can access to digital economy to use as a good platform for their business and trade. I would like to share one other thing which Thailand has been practiced for years and is of great relevance at this difficult time. I would like to introduce our counterpart countries to our homegrown approach for alternative development, the sufficiency economy philosophy, or SEP. Some might have know of this concept. The SEP is a thinking process based on 3 guiding principles of moderation, reasonableness, and resilience to external shocks. SEP provides guidelines for inclusive balance and sustainable development by developing the ability to cope appropriately with critical challenges arising from a rapidly changing world. SEP can apply to every group of people at any level and in all areas such as agriculture, health, tourism, and trade. In terms of food security, which has been redirected by the Thai government as previously mentioned, the SEP could strengthen the agricultural sector to generate food and that ensure food security at the household and community levels, strengthen community business, and foster sustainability of grassroots economies. During the COVID-19, there was a surprising incident happened that I would like to share with the meeting. when we see the barter trade has been brought back to our economy. Normally we see the barter trade in the ancient time, you know, but during this time, people in the communities cannot sell their products and earn income as usual. They had no money to spend while there was surplus in their agricultural product. So the local people from the northeastern region, which grow rice, deliver tons of rice product to exchange with tons of fish product from the local people in the southern region. Indeed, the situation in post-COVID-19 era, Thailand has suggested sectors of cooperation placing priority in health security, such as capacity building and exchange knowledge and experience with neighboring countries, especially epidemiology and crisis management in public health. Job security to have skill development or reskill to match job vacancy and opportunity, especially to respond to the special economic zone. We must include digital economy and IT to be part of the people's skill development to help generate their income also. Lastly, since HRD's work cross-cut every facet of developing cooperation, Thailand therefore would like to invite other working groups to join us in implementing capacity building for other sectors as well, not strengthen and do capacity building for only our own working group. At this stage, I would like to urge our colleagues from Indonesia and Malaysia to expand our support of capacity building and make our linkage as well as synergy to other working groups. Thailand also would like to invite our two counterpart countries to make the next implementation blueprint wider and tackle all existing challenge of providing job security. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing the experiences and also policy actions that have been taken from Malaysia, Thailand, also from Indonesia in this pandemic COVID-19. And how can we move forward to new normal life or the recovery moment? I took a note some of the points that been sharing from Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia. That first we took a note that we still have a lot of spirits to continue our economic activities to recover our employment. And I do believe that the current policy been taking from each country can bring us a better conditions. In fact, some of the challenges that we are now still facing in our employment, where we have a new unemployed people, most of the businesses are going down at the moment, but we do believe with all of the spirit that we have, we can continue moving forward and get a better future. And also I took a note the last statement from Thailand that Thailand encouraged all of us here to continue working on our blueprint activities. I think it's a good idea for us to looking back what we have agreed and put in our blueprint, because those activities stated in the blueprint can also encourage us to recover of our employment. But nevertheless, this meeting, we also discussed some of the instant proposal of activities to recover from this pandemic COVID, where in the next agenda, I think 1 or 2 agenda before we finish this meeting in the mid of this day, can also allowing us to propose some of the activities that we believe can instantly continue our working to recover our employment. So distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, let me move to the next agenda, which is agenda 4. The title is Mitigations, the Impact of COVID-19 on Manpower Cooperation in IMT-GT. We have one of our resource speakers from employer side. Is Dato Haji Samsudin Badan. Mr. Samsudin or Dato Samsudin is Executive Director of the Malaysian Employer Federation. He will share on the private sector experiences at managing business and employment during the minimum control order. I mean, how can he share to all of us from employer perspective in this hurtful situation? So without further ado, I would like to invite Dato' Samsudin to sharing your experience. Please, Dato' Samsudin.
Terima kasih, Ibu Moderator. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning to all the delegates and also participants. Yeah. And of course, COVID-19 actually had posed a very serious challenge to the private sector, especially in Malaysia, in the sense that in the Malaysian context, yes, we have about 800,000 registered employees. But really, most of the employers are small-time employers, in the sense that they are what you call it as micro-employers, and they actually have 5 or less than 5 employees, each of them. And this really is posing a lot of challenge, because you know that the micro enterprises, they don't have reserve, they don't have savings, and they don't have any kind of, I would say, stock to beef them up in the event there is an event like what happened during the MCO because of the COVID-19. So during that MCO period, of course, you know, most of these employers are actually having to actually come up with their own personal saving to pay wages, to pay for expenditure, things like that. And of course, you know, undoubtedly that, you know, they cannot survive for more than 2 months during that lockdown period. Yeah, so it's very critical for actually the government to come up with their assistances in order for these enterprises to remain in business. But unfortunately, I think more than half of them actually had not been able to sustain their businesses during that period. And that, I think, is something that I think we need to really think of it, and perhaps you know, we need to actually address this issue very, I would say, critically. Perhaps if you can just, I don't know whether I can control the slides myself. I think this is from the Secretariat, is it?
We can see your slides.
No, okay, I'll try to share this slide first, sorry. So I just can.
Sorry, Pak, we couldn't see your slide now. Okay. Secretariat, can you upload just Dato' Samsudin, please, because slides.
No, perhaps I need to just call for some technical assistance here from my ITP people. Yeah, just hold on for a while.
Okay. Perhaps the Secretariat from CIMT, can you help Dato' Samsudin to upload his slides, his presentation?
No, the problem is that we are not the young people to address it.
But we have a very young spirit, Pak. That's okay.
Wong, can you assist me here? Yeah, okay. But I really would like to control it myself here from my own terminal, so that I can just keep up with my pace. But of course, like what had been shared by the government representative, Dr. Mazli from Malaysia, yes, the government had come up with various incentives under the Prihatin packages, under the what they call it as Penjana scheme, thing like that. But really, you know, the impact can still be, I would say, a lot deeper, a lot more than what had really been happening. And of course, this is where, just hold on for a while, I'll just try to, can you assist to share that?
Okay.
I'm on already.
Yeah, I know, but. Okay, just. Yeah. I'm not sure whether the participants can see my slide from my terminal here.
Yes, we can see
I
from
can see
Malaysia.
yours.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, beautiful. And sorry, my apologies, because being an old hand, I'm not very familiar with all these new things on sharing and uploading kind of things. So I need to get my technical people to assist me. Yeah. And of course, this is something that I think is all within your blueprint, I suppose. Yeah. And we're supposed to actually work together within the IMT-GT on all these areas. Yeah. And what is important is that within our aim, within the IMT-GT, we try to improve our labor mobility through regulatory reforms and also enhance the people-to-people connectivity. But of course, taking the first point here, we have to be frank and ask ourselves, had there been really improvement in labor mobility between the three countries, Indonesia, Thailand, and Malaysia, arising from the from IMT-GT cooperation? To me, from the employer side, frankly, I say that a lot more things has to be done in order to improve the labor mobility through the IMT-GT, because I think still, you know, we as a small group under the IMT-GT is not able to really, you know, make people move easily between the three countries, and we still depend on the main, I would say, general provision about immigration rules and also the government rules on movement of people from the I think bigger side within ASEAN and things like that. And I think the IMT-GT itself has to come up with special fast tracking as far as movement of people are concerned. And I think this is, I think, something that perhaps the IMT-GT has to actually consider and make that improvement of labor mobility a reality rather than just to be nicely being stated in our blueprint, thing like that. Yeah? And of course, these are some of the 6 priority strategies that I think I had got it from the IMT-GT statement itself. But again, I think, you know, a lot of things that had been done here and or had been stated on paper, but I think as far as the issue on skill, competency, and recognition in selected professions, I think we still have a long way to go. And of course, later on, I can say that within ASEAN, we have MRA, thing like that. But unfortunately, again, I would say it looks like nice on paper, but it is really not working. It's not moving smoothly as far as the skill recognition is concerned. Unfortunately, it's still like that. And I think each country, of course, for reasons known for the benefit of their own citizen, they say that they would like to reserve the skills or the job for the citizen rather than allowing other people to come in, things like that. Of course, what we say here is that as IMT-GT, we should be able to share the skill of our resources within the 3 countries. So that what's important is that we are actually spurring the growth based on the sharing of competency of skill within our own people within the region itself. Then of course, this is basically when we talk about the Malaysian economy itself. Yeah, of course, the government representative had mentioned that yes, there are some issues with the economic growth during this period, and we expect to be something like even negative growth during this particular period. Yeah, and of course, this is what is being stated earlier. But when we look at what really happened, yeah, what had been done in the forecast area here, basically the actual statistic that had been actually being issued by the authorities looked very different. It is far more worse as what had been actually forecasted earlier. Yeah. So say for example, of course, when we're talking about the industrial production index, it was predicted that it is going to fall by 15.4%, but actually it's about 32%, about more than 100% of what had been forecasted. Yeah, and of course, when we say that still that the balance of trade, we expected it to be about 11.1 billion, but actually it was a negative of 3.5 billion. Yeah, and export actually fell by close to double of what is being predicted, to close to 24%. yeah, and in import also actually fell, I think less than 15%. This may not be that bad basically. And of course, the more important part, ladies and gentlemen, here is on the unemployment part. Yeah? 3.5% was what we had forecasted earlier, as far as figures are concerned. Yeah? And I can say here that you know, the impact is far worse than what had been forecasted. Actually, it reached 5% of the unemployment people during that period. So somewhere in March, end of March, the unemployment figure was about 610,000 people are employed in Malaysia. And the data in April show that it was 788,000. So it's about 1.1% increase just within a month. Yeah? And as from the employer side, we know very well that, you know, normally when we talk about retrenching people, things like that, it is becoming like a tradition or culture for the Malaysian employers not to retrench before the Hari Raya celebration, the Aidilfitri. Yeah? And I had actually forecasted that a lot more retrenchment will happen after the Aidilfitri celebration. And of course, some quarters are not happy with that, but actually that is what is really happening. More and more people is getting retrenched after the Hari Raya celebrations. And of course, this is also just to show in graphic form the unemployment that we have. And of course, you know, it's forecasted officially that possibly the unemployment figure can go even up to 7% or 8%. But to me, possibly if we are not handling well, we don't have the necessary stimulus packages and employers in the private sector are not well assisted, possibly the unemployment figure can even reach double digit this year. And of course, hopefully we are not able, but based on what is happening currently, it may happen in that manner. And of course, this may also involve the foreign workers that are currently in the country, things like that. And of course, what is more important, ladies and gentlemen, is that even at this level now, yeah, the unemployment rate of youth is on the high side. Yeah. Of course, we say that it is about 5% currently unemployment, but among the youth is closer to 13%, 12.9%. And youth, of course, in our category here is people who are 40 and below kind of thing. So in that sense, these people are finding it hard to actually find employment. And what really is happening in the labor market is basically employers now are not employing. Most of the employers have taken the policy to say that they are not, they are freezing employment currently. And of course, that means that they are not taking new people. And what is the impact on the labor market? Every year we know that about 500,000, about 500,000 new entrants to the labor market. These are the school leavers, these are the college and university leavers. And what is the prospect for them to get employment during this period? It's going to be very hard, I would say, especially you're talking about trying to actually get employment that are actually relevant to their studies. Yeah? And that will be going to be very, very hard. But even that also to get a general job that may not be relevant to their experience or with their studies will also very difficult. And of course, there is, as far as the new entrants to the labor market is concerned, but the people who are in employment now also run the risk of being retrenched. Yeah, so that I think is the kind of situation that we have now, the double whammy that we are facing. And I think we need to really address this particular issue very well. Of course, you know, as a country. And of course, yes, like have already been stated by the government representative, we have the hiring incentive program. But let me share with the participants here the kind of problem that the private sector is facing as far as trying to actually assist the government in trying to absorb these people and be employed, things like that. Yeah. When we discuss with the authorities about this particular incentive scheme, the Hire Malaysia scheme, the authorities say that when you engage these people even as apprentices or under the training scheme, they are considered as your employee, meaning that during the period that you employ them, you need to make insurance payment to the social security. You need to have contribution to the old age provision, thing like that, the provident fund. And of course, as employers, you're very worried. If all these things are considered as employees, what happened at the end of the program itself? If they don't actually engage these people, they don't employ these people, or they don't actually retain their employment, will this employee then go to the authorities and say, I want to be reinstated? I think this is a major problem. And as NEF, we had said to the government to say that you should not consider these people as employees. If you want to encourage them to be trained and given some skills training so that at the end of the day, they are more employable. So this is part of the major problem that we have, because as employers now, we don't want to be saddled with a long-term situation of employment, thing like that. And let me be frank here, basically, of course, when we talk about COVID-19 and the aftermath of it, of course, we are still within the COVID-19, but hopefully this thing be able to be overcome in a short period. But what is part of the new norm as far as employment is concerned? Employers are no longer able to provide what you call it as long-term employment. If at all we employ, ladies and gentlemen, it is basically more on the shorter-term contract. 1 year, 6 months, 3 months, monthly basis, or even on daily basis. And of course, employers have been heavily criticized on this, but what option do the employers have? Because we as employers say that, okay, look, we cannot actually even guarantee our own existence in the near future. How can we provide you with long-term employment? So this is, again, something that perhaps the authorities need to look at it, again, realistically, and look at the market, what is happening in the market, and not actually using the old tradition, the old norm, to actually govern the new norm. In fact, I can say safely that we are now in a new norm, and I think we should be prepared to think about how can we actually address these issues that is coming with COVID-19. And part of the new norm, I would say, is employment may no longer be on a longer-term employment, it will be on shorter-term employment. I think we need to actually come up with a proper regulation or rules to govern this, what we call it as shorter-term employment. And of course, again, I think this is an old issue. Even without COVID-19, we had always had skill mismatches. What had been produced by the schooling system or even the university system is not actually meeting up with the requirements of what the market requires. Yeah? So of course, unfortunately, say for example, when we talk about even in Malaysia itself, we have a problem about the school leavers are not able to command the English language well. Yeah? And of course, employers have been criticized for this. They say that, okay, look, you're trying to discriminate people who cannot speak English, but the question is that this is a requirement, not that it is that employers just want to have that particular skill, just for the purpose of having the skill. No. But of course, we have to realize that now when we talk about the market forces is not just internal forces, but also dealing with external clients, things like that. And far as external client is concerned, of course, they communicate mostly in English. Of course, there may be some that require Mandarin communication, that require, say, for example, Arabic communication. But those are, I would say, the exception. But generally speaking, you need to have that particular skill. And of course, the important part is basically now when we talk about COVID-19, for example, of course, the new norm is having to this kind of online conferences. Yeah. Of course, the younger set of people are very familiar with the technology part. Yeah. But of course, people like me, I maybe it's difficult to teach me anymore. I'm the old breed kind of thing. I can talk, but I can't manage all the IT requirements, thing like that. Yeah. And of course, what is important is that when we talk about the future of education, yeah, when we talk about education, Malaysia had been trying to actually emphasize more on TVET, technical and vocational education. Yeah? But of course, the problem is, ladies and gentlemen, as parents, I don't want to send my children to technical and vocational education because I always see that the TVET is meant for people who cannot actually be accepted into the academic line. If you fail to secure a place in academic line, then you go to TVET because the TVET is always considered as a second choice. But really, when we talk about employability, people who are in TVET are really employable. And I think their employability rate, I think previously before COVID-19, you're talking about closer to 90% and things like that. Whereas for the academic line, their employability is something like nearer the 50% line. So you can see that, of course, there is a lot of importance, I think, for us between Indonesia, Thailand, and Malaysia in trying to actually put emphasis on TVET. So just taking a leaf from our neighbor, Singapore. They used to have problem in trying to get students into TVET. But what they had done actually, Singapore, actually they had invited Harvard to look into their technical and vocational education. And based on the study made by Harvard, Harvard had actually certified the Singapore TVET as one of the best in the world. And because of that, there is a perception change by the parents and also the students themselves. They wanted to enroll into TVET, and that I think is something that is, that actually really had been successful in addressing the issue of people not interested to be in TVET. And in Singapore now, the students, the parent actually had made TVET as the preferred choice rather than as a second choice. So that perhaps, I would suggest that people within the IMT-GT trying to look into this aspect so that we actually cover this period. And of course, important, ladies and gentlemen, that I think we need to really accredit the skill that the people of our people have. It's important that actually we go on recognition of prior learning because these people may be very allergic to exam. You ask them to sit in an exam, they won't pass. But if you actually ask the people to actually assess it, to come and assess whether they are skillful or not, I would say that yes, they are able to do the job, and that should be certified skill, certified as a certified skill. And of course, Malaysia had introduced the dual training system, which is, I think, very interesting, more practical rather than just theory. And this is what actually the industry require. And as MEF, we actually support this program very clearly. And of course, as MEF, again, we would like to drive productivity. Yeah? And of course, the wages should be linked to the certified skill. And this is the only way for us to move forward. And of course, in Malaysian context, we always say that some of the unwanted jobs as 3D jobs, things like that. I would say that there is a need nationally in all the countries, Indonesia, Thailand, and Malaysia, to rebrand the job. Don't call the job as, say, for example, if you are familiar with people in the cooks basically. Last time we used to call them as cook, and people are not interested to become cook because it's looked down upon as a no good job. But then came the Master Chef, programs, things like that. Then of course, many youngsters actually are interested to actually take up culinary. And now chef, they are called as chef, which is, I would say, a more glamorous job. And I think that actually attracted a lot of people to be within that. So we can actually rebrand the lower end job to become a higher job and attract people to do the job. Yeah. And of course, like I had said earlier, yes, we have all these ASEAN mutual recognition arrangement. Of course, the IMT-GT is part of this particular arrangement. But tell me honestly, how many people actually had moved cross-border based on the MRA? Yeah? And I would say that is negligible, if not none. So based on that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for giving me and MEF the space to share some of our thoughts as far as the issues coming up with IMT-GT, coming up with COVID-19, things like that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dato' Samsudin, for sharing your perspective based on the current situations and during the minimum control order. I took some notes delivered by Dato' Samsudin about the importance of the IEB implementations for our cooperation, even in this recovery moment from the pandemic COVID-19. I also took a note that Dato' Samsudin also raised the issue of importance to continue our collaborations on training, the issue of reskillings, upskillings are also important to continue to work on, and some of the potential sectors that may need to be considered among of us is, I took a note, was agriculture, agro-based tourism, halal industries, and some specific occupations in the tourism itself, like a barista, chef, are also important to continue to our collaborations. So once again, thank you, Dato' Samsudin, for sharing your ideas, your insights. And ladies and gentlemen, distinguished delegates, we are now moving to Agenda 5, which is turning COVID-19 crisis into opportunities. The Agenda 5, we will have very good speakers also from the education sector. You know that our working group now is not only on the human resources development itself, but we also education and culture issues in our working group. So now we have one of our speakers from the University Andalas, West Sumatra. His name is Professor Dr. Alvindri. Professor Dr. Alvindri is a professor economics from Andalas University, West Sumatra. He will share his views as expert, of course, related to current policies, implementing on labor sectors, and propose new approach that could be taken by the member countries of IMT-GT to reduce the impact of COVID-19. I do believe that a professor will also give us insights from the education perspective. So I would like to give the opportunity to Professor Alvindri. Please.
Thank you, Bu Putri. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to spend around 50 minutes dividing from first looking any problems of unemployment at this time, which is different from before COVID. So this is a very important to see what factors can be accommodated to reduce number of seeking the job. Second one is, as we know from our data, look at unemployment must be rose from around 7 to 10%, more or less, which is the first seekers, the open unemployment due to first seekers, around 7%, but the new unemployment due to COVID, it increased around 3%, which is totally around 5. Some of friends like Chris Manning estimate that around 5 to 6 millions unemployment rates, people who are seeking the job in Indonesia. When we find out the literatures, it is shown that the previous literature show that a lot of various factors contribute to increase unemployment. But in case of COVID, the policy due to COVID can contribute to increase employment. That people are recognize that. So which means that for the first job seekers, and due to the policy as well as reducing a growth of economy within Sumatra, Java, or Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, the aggregate demand decline. And this is very important as a first stage in which area of IMT-GT cooperation can contribute to reduce the problem of job seekers in respective countries. Some believe that we have to make some understanding how long the situation will change. Yesterday, according to the report of OECD, like in Indonesia, the situation will be normal until 2022, which means that there have a difficult situation from 1 or 2 years ahead, which means that when we are talking about unemployment, it is not a matter of easy to open the job because of the job itself is, or the business itself is difficult. Please, my next slide, please. And this is one of change that people might know. Before the COVID coming, we can detect that almost all of the consumer behaviors use some of methods dealing with how they are consumption. According to Bank Indonesia prediction, we have a problem with a demand for durable goods, which means that people who are working in durable goods so far is a problem. They are
voice, Professor.
Hello, hello. Can you take it my voice, please? Ken? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you, Bro.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
the voice is clear. The voice is clear.
Okay. This is the important thing that I'm going to say. There have a change in the labor market situation when the data, which is calculated by McKinsey on last May, we show that the only left people who are using like supermarket or a small shop within the left around 10 to 15% after COVID. And you know what happened? The behavior is according to the theory. People are using or consuming non-durable goods. So which means that the increase of non-durable goods after COVID, but decrease significantly durable goods, and also employment related with such goods things. So the next slide, please. And because of that change, I think we have to understand the various type of labors. In the sense, at least there are two types of labors occur. It increased number of the first job seekers because of they are living middle levels or high levels education. The second one is the people who are layoffs because of the business is not desired anymore, which is count in Indonesia around 1.7 million people who are suffer from. So in each type of unemployed peoples, we have to make a clear understanding. So what I'm going to share in this sense, IMT-GT office or groups have to clear understanding and make them a new approach, a new policy, a new document, because what Pak Samsudin just raised previously, the situation of employment is not permanent anymore. There might be a shortened contract, 3 to 6 months, or might be less than 1 year. So we need to have what we call it in the first sense, like analysis which is shown for 3 countries, and using such analysis into a simple policy, how and what can we have to be done for the next futures. That is what is a very simple presentation in this slide, showing us that when we are talking about, say, for example, domestic layoff employment, we have to make sure that there are 2 types. First is we need to improve skills. What type of skills that we need to improve? That is a big question. I think from the Malaysia side, they have already give them 3 emphasis on which skill are more priority. So we need also to make a new priority for example, for Sumatra province, which skills are needed and which skill can be exchanged from Indonesia to Malaysia or even with Thailand and vice versa. That's the first important thing that I'm say in this occasion. The second one is we need also to look again the regulation in which among countries match. For example, my students study found that before COVID, for example, Malaysia still need laborers, particularly for the low and medium level of labor from Indonesia. But they need to improve their what we call it combining skills. Combining skill, which what we are looking according to OECD prediction, people who are able have high order thinking as well as soft or leadership skills or communication skills. So which means that this is combining is a new type of ability and skill which is required by industry for the next futures, which is absolutely different with before COVID. The next slide, please. I think I'm going to share in which area we are having collaboration, desired collaboration among us. After we make a blue paper or blue ribbon or blue policy for that, we need to make a categorization. First is when we deal with fresh graduates, of course, I'm really suggest that we are having a new type of what we call a skill and reskilling approach for the employment schemes, which is different with what government of Indonesia introduced. I'm not looking any relevance program to be continued in Indonesia like pre-employment card, because the situation of economy is not a difference. I mean, we have to look at when the tourism sectors might be wake up very earlier compared with the industrial sectors. Agricultural sectors might be wake up very quick rather than the other sectors, which means that when we offer the pre-employment cards for those who are living at the sub-district level throughout Indonesia, I mean throughout Sumatra, this is much more relevant. So what we need to make now is, I'm suggesting the new approach is the youth training center must be available at least at the provincial levels, one in each provincial levels, and the IMT-GT countries can contribute, can share to support the operation, to support the ability to produce the youths come to the training centers, and then they can share again next to the works when they are needed by private agencies or by business sectors when they are wake up. The second one is for people who are laid off, they are returned from internationals, which I believe that according to my calculation, at least around 50,000 workers, for example, in the rubber plantation or CPO plantation from Malaysia are coming back to Sumatra. Why they are coming back? Because of they are not having a skill, because of the down in the price of rubbers and CPO. This is very important. So we have in each country have to make a solution to those who are internationally labor movement, like people who are come from Malaysia to Indonesia, who are working in the low and the medium workers. So government of Indonesia, for example, need to retrain them. This is the second approach, retrain them. According to the previous presentation, also Fitri, I agree also with Pak Samsudin, reskilling, which adopting a new environment of the business. What is the reskilling means? Giving them any potential skills as well, not only skills, but also ability to look the business process. When they give them only the skills in the youth training centers, the immediate problem is where they are going to be put because of the low demand for skills employment for the next future. This is the second one. For the layoff person who are coming from the abroad, for example, Malaysia to Riau, to North Sumatra, Aceh, and West Sumatra, we need give them a new approach, new program to give them a reskilling, whether they are ability to open the new job in their village, or maybe sometime we can improve our connection. They can apply it again to move or to find a job in respective countries or in everywhere the employment needs. Not only for the two types of people who are suffer from COVID, but also we need to establish what we call it, if we are agree, IMT-GT only a small things that we can make what we call it a piloting. Piloting, we must to establish what we call it institution, training, youth training institution under collaboration together. This is not only institution, but also we need to recruit together who are going to have to become trainers. We need to make a collaboration. Sometimes we need to send people from Indonesia to Malaysia or even to Thailand. Say, for example, Thailand much better in terms of tourism to produce people who are understand about tourism. So we can offer or we can send them to work. Or vice versa, maybe Malaysian people can learn about, for example, to improve their skills on related food processing, maybe can come to West Sumatra, for example. So under our proposal, it is become clear that IMT-GT for the next futures might be having this piloting project to address maybe small things, but it works. People like look at the important thing that we have to be done, a very serious situation now, until the Indonesian government, Malaysia, or even Thailand having a new scheme. So my last point in this sense that we only concentrate a very emphasize on supply side to improve skills and reskilling of employment, which is have to be make a more specific, which is need for the immediate labor market for futures. So for my last presentation, when we put this into a policy together, say for example, the piloting in West Sumatra, in Riau, or even in Johor or in Thailand, which is under IMT-GT, let's say the next 6 months, we are starting with the recruitment. We are starting with exchange. There are two types of them. First is economics training. The second one is social training. Indonesia sociopreneurships now have already worked with collaboration with a lot of countries. We can join them, we can request their activities and join with IMT-GT activities like socio-entrepreneurs schemes, which is a lot of teachers, a lot of unemployed in our country, in Malaysia, can help each others, like for the environmental program, for educational program, which is a social-based jobs. So I think when we need, when we clearly state that and calculate, having a calculation with the small, start with the small things, I think the IMT-GT cooperation will feel and will have a new what we call it, new benefits for our people after COVID and during the recovery. I think that is my mind argumentation, or my mind idea, the approach that we need to making put it into the policy papers, and then next time we need to make the timeline, who are work for what, and when we are starting, and then I think this is will benefit for all of us. I think, thank you. That is my point in this sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Elindri. It was indeed very insightful for all of us here to hear your presentations, your sharing about how can we move forward in collaborating among Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. Especially, I took a note some of the areas that you mentioned on your presentations. Again, the issues of skills training is also important. You also raised the issue on the importance of soft skills training, and how people, I mean, especially the fresh graduate students, to have the ability to look the business process. So they are not only having a technical skills, but also how can the workers or the candidate of the workers, the job seekers, looking the business process so they can contribute maximum to the business itself. I also took a note that the collaborations among the Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand on the vocational training issues is very important also in these situations. And the professor also raised the issues on the pilot project, if we also can agree on that. So our collaboration can come up into the realistic things. So thank you, Professor Aliandri, for your sharing information and insights. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, let me now moving to next agenda. We have another speaker from GBC, Joint Business Council. You know that our collaboration, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand Triangle, the engine of growth of this collaboration actually is on the GBC, on the business sectors. So we have a representative from GBC Malaysia, Mr. Nazrul Hizam, representing GBC. He would like to share on the business perspective to this situation. So may I now invite Mr. Nazrul. Please, Mr. Nazrul.
Hello, Assalamualaikum. Hello.
Waalaikumsalam.
Okay, first of all, thank you very much, everyone, to Madam Chairman, thank you, and all the distinguished honorable guests and also speakers. What I can say after listening throughout the whole GC, there seems to be a lot of information talking about labor market, about capital development, talking about capital mobility. So before I move on to my actual presentation, I just would like to share in terms of my experience. When talking about hiring people from 3 different countries, I think I've done all of it. The first, when I was actually at the age of 28, I started my own Tom Yum restaurant. So I hired people from southern Thailand. And now, at the same time, I also have a durian orchard, which my strong people are actually from Indonesia. But my main business currently is actually in terms of IT solution. Okay, so I think I have quite experience actually working with all the different people from different countries, and especially in terms of understanding the culture. But I think what most important currently, the main point that we want to talk here today is actually in terms of the post-COVID opportunity in terms of human capital development and mobility from a technology aspect. So if you allow me, I will share with you my presentation slides. Okay. Okay, first of all, let me share. Okay, my company is called Primus Scotch and Berhad. We've been around since 2007 with a strength team of almost about 40 people. And we have basically developed system and solution for MNCs, government agencies, and also big conglomerates lah. So one of the things that I want to highlight in terms of human capital development is one of our interesting project with AKPK, which is the financial education portal. So during the COVID-19 scenario, there has been increase in terms of unemployment, retrenchment, whereby this agency have to cope with numerous people coming over to help in terms of managing their financial, which when we look at it, the core factor here is actually in terms of the job security. So this has been something that we are very close with, and we are coming from a technology approach and trying to look where we can basically work together hand in hand with the industry player and especially from the academic sector in coming up with a concept model that can be benefit all. By the day, in terms of the effect of COVID-19, okay, hold on, sorry. Okay. Okay. So the first part of my presentation is actually we have to understand in terms of human capital growth is the backbone of national building. So in order to have a good national building, we have to have a productive society. There must be an inclusive growth in infrastructure and education investment. But at the same time, because of the challenges that has been faced by everyone by the COVID-19, we have to actually look in terms of assessing what are the actual impact, not only on the macro level, but we have to understand going down straight to the micro level. The high employment rate entail higher government fund allocation and assistance to these people. But at the end of the day, no one knows exactly when would this COVID-19 would end. And this would give the uncertainty would definitely impact from the top level straight down to the lower level. And I think what we feel the most impact are actually the people at the ground. So we have to look at the talent transition into the new norm on how to help these people to come up to basically work themselves to familiarize on the new work model and also in terms of technology platform. Can you all see my presentation slides?
Unfortunately, I cannot see your slide.
You cannot see my slides? Okay, let me try again.
Yes, please.
What about now? Hello?
No, I cannot see.
There's no slides? Yeah. Oh, hold on. Oh, yes, yes. Sorry.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, I think this is the case. Yeah. Okay, this is the one. Okay, now can everyone see it now? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
Now?
Yes, good now.
Yes, already.
Okay.
Done.
Sorry. Okay, this is actually my introduction slide. These are my team. Okay. Okay, this is actually the first point that I want to highlight in terms of the overall, in terms of the introduction of the COVID-19, looking at the challenges and opportunities, and also the effect not only from the top level down to the lower level, and actually looking at how technology investment and also the digitalization adoption would help in terms of creating a positive effect actually in terms for the human capital development and also the marketability factor. Okay. So I think the first thing that from the industry point, I think is the assessment of the pandemic impact to employment rate and job market. I think the information that has been shared by the previous speakers have, I think, clearly demonstrated that when looking at the anticipated data and also and the actual data. Second is actually to identify the key challenges in the talent development and marketability and mobility. Currently, I think the market, especially in terms of employment, it has become shattered, not shattered, I mean to become unstructured, whereby there's a lot of unemployment, businesses have changed their model, there has been a lot of what we call it, new ways of doing business. So all this would directly impact the people around the region. Then it's actually looking at the IMT-GT HRD framework, objective and action plan, which I'm very sure looking at the blueprint has clearly spelled out the key areas that has been put late for the 2032 blueprint model. But due to the COVID-19, there must be some changes to be in place in terms of ensuring there is direct effect to the people. And the next point I want to raise is actually in terms of adoption of this disruptive technology to induce innovative transformation. When you look at prior to the COVID, everyone have been doing their work using the old way or basically the traditional way. But due to the COVID-19 and the MCO, there has been changes which has forced people actually to adopt technology to continue with their life. So I think this is an opportunity actually for IMT-GT and even the authority and also the industry player to look into this closely in terms of accommodating to follow the the wave in terms of the technology adoption to continue servicing the country. Next is actually the creation of a conducive and supporting platform, which I'm so sure looking at the blueprint, there has been an initiative of creating the labor market information system by IMT-GT. And what we need to do is actually to look into it and also to expand further in terms of adopting new technology. And of course, when I look at the inputs that has been given throughout the whole presentation, what has been lacking or disoriented? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Sorry. Hello, everyone.
Yes, we are here.
Okay, I think it seems to be there's some. Okay, hold on. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Okay, can everyone see my presentation clearly?
Yes, we do.
Sorry. Okay. Okay. Is everyone clear on the presentation? Yeah?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so there are 4 key areas that when we look at coming up with a solution building block. First is actually looking at the technology. What would be the best technology in terms of in helping the human capital development program? When you talk about technology, you're talking about online, you're talking about business intelligence, you're talking about mobile apps, you're talking about AI, one of the things, and then the new technology that we have currently are, for example, the blockchain, and also even up to the AI level. But there's no point basically to come up with a grand scale of technology. It's better actually to work from a piecemeal model and you scale up. That will ensure a better investment and a better higher impact model. The second part is actually in terms of capacity building, whereby the solution must actually come up with modules, come up with what I call it, technology services that can basically incorporate the conventional training model into the digital platform. This would basically help a better reach, not only within the region, but also to the global arena. Because if we just look into because the internet is everywhere. So the marketability, people are sourcing talents from all around the world. And with a structured model, with a good solution platform, not only in terms of addressing the labor need of supply and demand in our region, but also can go further than our region to the national market, to the national arena. Then, of course, the data-driven. With data that is collected and also been coordinated effectively, it would help in terms of not only in terms of policy making, but also in terms of business responses to the current, whatever the market movement or the current market needs. Okay. The next model that I want to share would be the drivers. So the solution driver here would help with you are talking about the quality that you want the solution building block to behave and function. So the first part is actually to look at the base model, which is the comprehensive solution platform that covers the entire process from the education point up to the employment stage, and also to monitor the movement of all the stakeholders inside the particular solution. Then we will have the interaction, which I think one of the key areas that has been stressed here is actually the human connectivity. So like I said, in terms of making decision, there must be a good interactive function into the solution that would help people to communicate real time. This would basically save a lot of time and especially cost when you talk about sourcing model. And also in terms of response of talking when you look at the talents well-being and welfare. Next is actually a digital ID, which is a eKYC. We have to have a standardized eKYC, which is up to standard and globally recognized. This particular part is crucial when you have to manage millions of people onto your platform. Then again, it's actually the real-time data to have the availability of data that is easy and cost-effective. Capacity building model. Then next is actually tracking, whereby you can actually know by the data, you can know exactly where your talents are at one particular time, where are the movement at a particular period, and actually when you talk about enforcement at the same time. Next is actually the financial model. Because when you talk about education, when you talk about training, when you talk about upskilling, there must be a financial factor into it. Normally, this has to be worked together with the employers to come up with a good program for the training for the solution model. Next is actually data analytics. Okay, I'm just going to breeze through because I think I just hit the bell. So. So the solution model here is actually a holistic model that basically drives the whole ecosystem that we want. So the first part is actually on the recruitment and digital ID sourcing, the talent development program to accommodate the program, the IMT-GT program, not only on the education, but also cross down to the industrial training, TVET model, and also experience. Next is the research and publication. I'm so sure right now when you gather all the industry into one platform, not only from the academic point of view, but from the private sector, there will be numerous information to be in which everyone can have access and actually benefit from it. And the fourth component is actually technology. One of the technology that we are looking at what we are proposing, model is actually on these are the modules that we feel that is important to have in the whole solution that covers the talent cluster, recruitment, training and skill, event and programs, research and publication, e-learning, financial, and also the certification and e-resume. One of the points that I would like to highlight is actually a resume, because when you talk about talent mobility, where does all the information reside? And how can we ensure that the information that's reside is true, fair, and transparent, and also verified? So by having a digital ID, which has a very good structure, coupled with the blockchain technology, you can ensure that the information through the network is verified and transparent. So this would basically have benefit for both, for the talent point of view, from the talent aspect, and also from the employer's aspect. And from the digital ID that basically embedded into the ID, you can have the online resume, which we use the e-scroll solution. Imagine that everyone who has the e-scroll can basically move and get employment easily by employers without any question. This would expedite the process. And with the e-scroll model, talents can basically put in or add in the skills from time to time into the resume, and they can bring it wherever that they go. Maybe now they are working currently in, let's say, in agriculture in Malaysia, and down the road there might be some people that goes into the system and say that, oh, we require some assistance, let's say in Kalimantan, for example, Indonesia. By having this solution, employers can go in and offer this job, and the employee and the talent can actually move and upgrade their skill from time to time. So why do we want to use blockchain? Because it is a innovative solution that basically is a distributed ledger technology that is distributed through the network. It is secured, it is verified, and easily to use. So this is one of the technology that we feel that the labor market can benefit from. Okay, almost done. So I think the whole movement here is actually from the identity part, from through the education process, and then you're talking about the knowledge training, and finally the verified certification, which encompasses a full model which can later on be linked to any network for recruitment in the long run. So the final desired impact will be complete data compilation on talent information, talent development program outcome level assessment. We're talking about easy to access and secure data management, lower cost in talent acquisition and mobility, and finally the tracking and monitoring of talent mobility. So moving forward, I'm sure that when you look at moving forward to come up with the prototype model, talking about full implementation, this would be the steps in terms of reaching the final goal of having a steady, reliable platform that will assist in terms of the labor market to help increase the talent capacity, upskilling of labor, and also the welfare of everyone. So thank you very much to all for giving us this opportunity. I'll be sharing the slides with everyone, and should there be any question, we'll be ready to address it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nazrul Hizam from GBZ Malaysia, to share your views and ideas. Okay, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we are now on the agenda 6, which is question and answer discussion, where we can discuss about our potential collaborations to this situation, to this moment, post-COVID-19. I would like to invite distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, to discuss and explore the ideas or suggestions or perhaps your proposal in order to maximize the IMT-GT collaborations to reduce the impact of COVID-19, especially in the area on human resources development, education, and culture. So I open the floor to you, please.
Chair, I think we have one more speaker, Chair, from Thailand, DBC Thailand.
Yes. Oh, really? Oh, sorry, because I didn't get any information. Oh, sorry about that. So yes, please, the GBC Chair from Thailand, the floor is yours. GBC Thailand?
Yes, I'm Ponchai from Thailand.
Oh, yeah, please.
Thailand.
Yes, Mr. Ponchai, the time is yours.
Yeah, I know because I'm the last speaker. And you know, sir, the topic that I'm talking about, that's we talking about the business challenge and the opportunity related to labor issue from post-COVID. And you know, sir, when you're talking about the business challenge, can you see my presentation? Hello?
No, I didn't see your slide, so sorry. Perhaps Secretariat can help us.
1 minute.
Oh, you upload by yourself, right?
Yeah. Can you see? Come on. Can you see the slide now?
Yes, it's very clear.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes, we can see it. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Because for this one, you know, when you're talking about the business challenge and opportunity related to labors or post-COVID-19, you know, when they have the post-COVID-19, the business challenge that we are facing is, you know, most of the countries still have imposed the partial and complete border closure to the foreign national. This is a big problem, frankly speaking, because it's real limitation on the movement of labor. And you know, when you limited on the movement of labor, that means, okay, all the laborers cannot move and cannot have the job, they lose their job. Even we have the foreign worker, we also cannot bring them back to Thailand, or even we also could not send them back to their home country if they still would like to go back to their homeland country. And you know, when you're talking about the post-COVID, you can see, okay, they will chip the migration, and also the migrant worker are the key to the pandemic response. That's very important because, you know, every country think, okay, all the migrant worker can bring the COVID-19 to their country. So they close the border. They do not allow the worker to move into their country, or even in Thailand, we close country because our country accept the Thai people that come back from overseas. But when they come back to Thailand, they still have to lock down 14 days for medical checkup, make sure they do not positive on the COVID-19. And you know, when they have a COVID-19, the big disruption, you can see the health system. The health system is have a disruption. And you know, so the health and the safety of the workplace is the context of the COVID-19. All the processing unit, they are very concerned about this, especially the food processing. And you know, we implement the deep cleaning, more healthy and safety measure. I think it's happened to every country, Malaysia, Indonesia, or Thailand. And you know, you go everywhere that you check your body temperature, you have to wear the mask. Make sure you do not have any fever, and that allow you go to the factory. That's very important. And another thing that we make the food system disruption. I'm talking about the food security, because when you have the COVID-19, we could not ship everything out to the country. We also could not import everything to the country for a period of time. And after that, okay, each country government allow, okay, to import and export for the food, not for the human being, especially the labor that goes down. And when you're talking about food security, the coronavirus is shaping the consumer attitude to the food and the global food system. They more value for the local and regional food system, not being dependent on the global food system, because suppose you still rely on the global food system, you will have a big problem. If you can't get the local food supply from local or from regional area, it's really good. It will save time, and that is will not have any contamination on the food. Besides, we also have to improve the degree of the self-sufficiency in the food production. And if you close down the country, suppose you are the food export country, you don't have any problem. Like in Thailand, you can see, okay, maybe just only a first week or second week when we have to announce the COVID-19, everybody go to the supermarket, grab everything on the shelves, and it's happened to every country. It's happened to every country, but if you are the food export country, just only a week or 2 weeks, the consumer, the people in the country know, okay, we have enough food to consume. Even we close down our border, do not allow any foreigner to come into the country. So you can see it change the consumer attitude to the food and the global food global system. We're talking about the food security. And another thing that challenge for the business is the supply chain system disruption. When we have the COVID-19, I think every country have the stock piling up because they close down the border. You cannot truck, you cannot ship to other country, so that your stock will pile up. Besides, the supply chain, you have to shorten the food supply chain and try to do the just-in-time logistic. That's very important. So I think when they have the COVID-19 or after COVID-19, you also have these three big challenging: health system disruption, food system disruption, supply chain disruption, okay? So even you have the challenge, but you still have the opportunity, even you have the COVID-19, because when you have the COVID-19, you will see a new normal to the behavior of the people in every country. That is never happened. That is never happened. That, okay, you go everywhere. Before you go out, you have to take the alcohol spray, you have to wear the mask, and when you go to each area, they will check your body temperature, and you have to wear the mask, and you have to social distancing, and this is the new normal on the behavior of the people, that when you run the business, you have to understand. Besides, the opportunity when they have the post-COVID-19, you have to manage your workplace to help to protect your employee and your business. That's very important, okay? And this opportunity, we also take to review and adjust the production system, number of worker plan to the new normal. You cannot use a lot of worker in your production unit or in your in your office like in the past before. That's too much. Now in Thailand, most of the people in the industry, especially in the Thailand Federation Industry, we are talking about the skill that I'm very appreciated that Dato Samuddin from Malaysia, of MEF from Malaysia, that talking about skill training and skill training, and and also the hiring incentive. I think this is very important because suppose you're running the business and the government understand, okay, now we need to have the skill training and the hiring program, incentive program for the private sector to hire the labor. That's very important. So the government have to do it, frankly speaking. And that will be the time that you have to do. And besides, doctor from the University of Andhra, that talking about the lead skill. That's very important because suppose you have you reskill your worker, not just only the soft skill and hard skill, but in Thailand now we're talking about upskill of the labor. That's very important because you have the labor now. Okay, you're still hiring it, but you have to upskill it. You upskill it, on all the soft skill and hard skill. And besides, because when you're running the food business, I'm talking about especially the food business, food processing, because now suppose something happened to your worker, one of your worker get fever on before going to the factory, or even you found out one worker have the positive testing of the COVID-19, you have to shut down, closing your factory. And you also have to operate with the reduced worker. And when you shut down, not just only 14 days, a lot of the production units stop, and you could not fulfill the pending order. That very seriously, frankly speaking. So now we're talking, some industry are also talking about the automation, to be the savior, especially the food processing, because when you run the food processing factory, now we are thinking about the less intact to the food, starting from the raw material until the finished product, to run the automation. Suppose all the factory go more automation, that means we will use less labor. And so the less labor, that means you also have your labor to reskill and also upskill. And for upskill, you need them to run the automation, especially the food processing, okay? So I think, this also the opportunity. Suppose you can run more automation and your people have the upskill, and that means your product will come out and the consumer, okay, will confidence on your product. That means you less contract, especially the food. You less contract, you more automation, and that's no contaminated. Even the COVID-19, and this also happened, and you can see a lot of slaughterhouse in US or in Germany when they have the positive COVID-19 in the labor, they have to close down. And that's a big issue, and nobody would like to buy your product from the factory. That's factory, even the slaughterhouse there, and so this they would like to stop import from you. That will be a big problem. So I thinking the government sector also have to do the training, the reskill and upskill for your labor, and also the government sector also have to provide the hiring incentive program to keep the business running, because not just only the worker get hurt from the COVID-19, the business also get hurt from the COVID-19. Okay, I think that's a short period because now it's over the noon time and everybody hungry. I think it's really okay. Yeah, that I will close my presentation, and take care of yourselves and have a good health and have a good lunch.
Thank you, Mr. Ponchai. Mr. Ponchai is the advisor of Food Processing Industry Club from the Federation of Thailand Industries. Thank you for your sharings on the views and on the business challenges and opportunities related to the labor issues for COVID-19. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we are now moving to agenda 6, which is the discussions. We will have 20 minutes time for discuss among ourselves here to discuss on the potential collaborations on the human resources development, educations, and culture among Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. So may I now open the floor, please?
Maybe we can start with the Malaysia first, if.
Yes, please. Malaysia, please.
Oh, hello, Assalamualaikum from Malaysia again.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you for the presentations from everyone. It was interesting to hear that everyone is interested in developing closer and relationship among member states. We affirm the need to have closer working relationship in terms of training and development. And I think some of them have mentioned that we need to work probably slightly harder in trying to have access to markets and training programs across borders. So that is it for now. Dr. Magni, do you have anything to that? No, yeah, that is all for now.
Okay, thank you, Bapak. Thank you. Anybody from Malaysia, perhaps from GBC Malaysia, would like to asking something or propose something for our collaboration? Please, I open floor for Malaysia first. No one from GBC? Okay, I move to Thailand delegation. I invite Thailand delegations. If you have any questions, please.
I just want to inform the meeting that according to the 9th working group on HRD EC in July last year, Thailand committed to implement 2 workshops. But I think we have to keep the ball rolling. So I think we plan to propose to do the workshop virtually. So in the spa and also with the welding, there's 2 workshops on traditional spa and massage, and another workshop is the competency skill standards in welding. So these 2 workshops we have already committed. So we try to get the ball rolling. So we gonna do the virtual or online training as soon as we can. So especially the workshop on the competency skill standard, we have 2 parts of the workshop. So the first part is the IMT-GT welding committee meeting to consider the draft manual handbook, which comprise 4 documents. So we plan to conduct the virtual online workshop in early August, and documents concerned will be circulated to the member countries before the workshop starts. So this is all that I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sasitorn, that you just said that Thailand will continue to host 2 kind of workshop following up our meeting in Bangkok last year. The 2 workshops are the workshop on spa and also workshops on competency standards on welding, which is expected that the workshops on welding will produce draft manual handbook for welding. Am I correct? And the workshop will be done in virtual workshops in early August. further information will be circulated to Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand.
And also the second part of this workshop is the visit to the centers that are proposed to be authorized testing center. Each country has already proposed the center, so we have to visit the center and see the readiness and the center which to whether it's conform with the ISO. So the visiting of the center proposed by each country will be implemented when the international travel is unlocked. Each country proposed the center to be authorized center.
Okay. Yeah, I remember the result of the meeting last year. There's gonna be a visit to our vocational training center, right? Well, like for example, Indonesia, we proposed to visit one of our vocational training center in Serang, Banten. The vocational training Serang in Serang, Banten, they have a very qualified welding training. Yes, it is still our plan, but we are still looking for the opportunity of traveling among us because of this pandemic situation. Yeah, we do hope that in, let's say, in August we can have like a permit for us to travel. Just for your information, for Indonesian civil operator, we are still don't have any permit to go abroad until August. So, well, yeah, we will let you know, Ms. Sasitorn, in our email whether we can continue to our schedule or not. But thank you so much for reminding us about the result of our meeting in Bangkok last year. So may I know, in fact, another delegates from...
If I may, Thirapat, DNS from Thailand, with the permission from the chair and permission from my leader from Thailand, Taika, I'd like to urge more collaboration between the JBC and the working group. Looking back at the meeting between the working group of trade and investment facilitation, we invite Bapak Sandiaga Uno, the recent challenge for the Vice President in Indonesia 2 years ago. And I'm very impressed about him because he promised to help CIMT to, about empowering of the youth. I believe that the youth is very important, especially the new young blood with the JBC, the newcomer in the business. So we need to empower them not only on the trade investment facilities, but also about how can we empower them on the area that they need, especially about the skill. We try to promote the skill we have, but we need to, collect the need from the young, from the youth, especially from the JBC. I would like to urge to Mr. Ponchai in order to promote the young entrepreneur on the skill they need during this COVID pandemic. And I believe on Indonesia side, it's the best example that you have the role model like Bapak Sandiaga Uno, who try to, promise to help the youngster in Indonesia. But on Thailand side, we'd like to urge Kun Ponchai in order to provide some assistance to the young entrepreneur on Thailand side, and also to cooperate with Malaysia and Indonesia JBC on the young generation on this, and propose to Thailand to look into the new opportunities, to open new area, new kind of expert in order to uplift the skill of the young generation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I took a note that the importance on the issue of developing and empowering our young people, especially the young entrepreneur. It's also your concern, yeah? It's also your concern referring to the discussions on the working group on trade. Well, at the time, Bapak Sandiaga Uno was one of the resource speaker. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so is CIMT can adding me or updating me on this issue, because I was not joined on the working group on trade. Perhaps CIMT can raise something on this, please, Dr. Firdaus.
Thank you so much, Ibu Putri. Yes, what mentioned by Kunci Rapat just now, and as from Thailand, it is correct that during our session with working group trade investment before, so our key speaker during at the time, Bapak Sandiaga Uno, also mentions the importance of empowering of youth. During at the time, Ibu Pak Sandiaga Uno also mentioned about the one of the concept program OKOCE. OKOCE once what is it?
OCE, right?
OCE, yeah?
OKOCE.
Yeah.
OKOCE,
yes.
That is very good. One kecamatan, one center for entrepreneurship. So this is very good concept, Ibu Putri, and also to our colleague. The CIMT already follow up this already. We have sent the letters to Pak Sandiaga Uno how we can collaborate with OCE or OCE, yeah, OCE. To utilize the potential one in our sub-region. So hopefully, Bu Putri, we can share with you later on, how the follow-up, after we receive the response from Pak Sandiaga Uno, and we have sent the letters 2 days ago to Pak Sandi on this regard.
Thank you, Pak Firdaus, for updating this issue. And I'm listening the OKOCE program initiated by the candidate of Vice President, Mr. Sandiaga Uno, is actually similar what the OFOP program in Thailand, one village, one product, if I'm not wrong. It's quite similar, but the program called OKOCE, initiated by Mr. Sandiaga Uno, was basically empowering the young people. So it's a good idea for us under this working group on human resources development, education and culture to also involving our young people to be ready to as the young entrepreneur. So looking forward for good collaborations with other working group, especially for having Mr. Sandiaga Uno insight and ideas to enrich this working group collaboration. So thank you so much. Also thank you for Mr. Kunci Rapat to raise this issue. May I now also invite other delegates from Thailand if we still have GBC? At the meantime, distinguished delegates, we have chat box in our Zoom application. And I read there are some, even though it's not so much, question and response from other delegates put in the chat box. So if you have time to look the chat box, reading through the comment and question in the chat box, that would be good, because I took a note that there is also a proposal, let's say, coming from Jambi province, Indonesia, one of the vocational training center in Jambi. They are expert on the tourism and hospitality. They are also proposing a collaboration with other vocational training center in Thailand and also Malaysia, especially from GBZ, in order to enhance tourism skills updating and also hospitality. So you can also get connected directly to Gentala Vocational Training Center in Jambi, Sumatra. I also read through the chat box another proposal from Malaysia, if I'm not wrong, from GBC Malaysia. They're also asking for collaboration with Thailand. So it's a good idea, yeah. It's a good opportunity while we are using this Zoom application. Everybody can get connected through this application. So thank you also to Zoom. Okay, may I now continue to this agenda to open the floor for our discussions. May I invite GBC from Thailand? You already talked. Now, perhaps Uninet or or Uninet or other like employer federation, do you like to asking or give a proposal? Please, I give the floor to you.
I'm really basically attracted to the possibility of using the digital online programs for the time being, even in the extent of trying to perhaps, get the services of skilled people during the COVID-19 period. Yes, we still have the lockdown in many countries, but I'm not sure whether now people who are in the 3 countries can actually crisscross border online through the digital platform to provide services, and of course in that way possibly we're not cutting off the service providers during this period. I'm not sure how active is this done for the time being between the 3 countries.
Thank you, Dato. Thank you so much. And now invite the Indonesian delegation. The Indonesian delegation, if you have any questions or ideas on proposal, I open the floor for Indonesian delegation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. After we heard some insight and comment from the distinguished speakers, our speaker, that we have noted that some point, critical point that we put in our collaboration, potential collaboration for the next. So the first point is we have to linkage our potential collaboration in the next in line with our implementation blueprint. So the second point is, yeah, we do agree that the focus, we should focus on the capacity building model cooperation between of the 3 countries, such as some like a blended learning or as known as hybrid learning in selected sector or selected programs, and also for the education sector and cultural sector, and also how we put the technology, or how we can say how introduce the technology in the cross border, so the people in the cross border to be aware about the digital transition. And the second one is our concern is how our local product can reach the global market. Is the one big issue to get to improve our economy in the cross border to be improved later on. And the last point is from our side is how we can establish some like a data integrated in our labor information system. So our labor market information system can be linked each other and accessible for our people in the 3 countries. I think that's all for my point. As for some kind, maybe we invite another delegates from Indonesia to be give some insight later on. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rizal from Ministry of Manpower, to recall the importance of to implement the IB and also to continue working among us in order to moving on from this pandemic COVID-19. Let me continue to invite Indonesian delegation to using this opportunity, asking or proposing something. Please, I open the floor. Mr. Ridwan from GBC Indonesia, Riau, perhaps you like to asking or proposing something, Mr. Ridwan? Please.
Hey, thank you very much, Ibu Putri. Thank you for giving me time to talk here in this meeting. Hello, everyone. I firstly would like to thank you for the comprehensive presentation by the 3 speakers, by more than 3 speakers maybe. Sorry, just a moment. Technical problem with the flight right on my home. Okay. Well, from the all speakers, I mean, the 3 speakers, Dato Shamsuddin and Professor Elfindri and Kun Ponchai, I like to highlight one presentation material from Kun Ponchai, that is limitation of labor movement. That is our problem at the moment. From the presentation, I understand that this is our problem, that we cannot move in and move out until unpredictable time. I don't know when, but I think this is our old problem. Then, but at this time, I think everyone has to focus on its program, because we cannot move out and move. Move out. I cannot go to Malaysia. I cannot go to Thailand. So maybe I would like to suggest only CIMT, especially the director of CIMT, to encourage the local government as the member of IMT-GTs and business people in local area to support IMT-GT by collaborating training programs for their people in their provinces. Based on that, based on the problem that was mentioned by Kun Ponchai. And the skill training, which was proposed by one of the delegates here, I think is also good. But back to the problem, as also mentioned by Dato Shamsuddin, there is now a problem with our digital methods. I mean, is it cross-border? I mean, is it also acceptable by the 3 countries? I mean, is it also applicable in Malaysia and Thailand? I mean, all together, if we do training, or we just do a training inside Indonesia, inside Malaysia, or inside Thailand. And yeah, I think that's the only little comment. We still focus on the training, skill training in our own countries, and then it needs to be reported by the CIMT as the program of HRD working group. I think that's all, Bu Putri. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bapak Ridwan, for your suggestion. It is important to encourage local government to be active on this working group of the IMT-GT. We have now Mr. Muzailin from UNINET, from Syah Kuala University Aceh. Mr. Muzailin, Dr. Muzailin, do you like to asking or proposing something, please?
Yes, thank you, Bu Putri. Ladies and gentlemen, we are from the Universitas Syah Kuala, representing member of UNINET. For your information, that actually we have in our network 25 universities across Indonesia. Actually, it's a good opportunity, but in the group in the group of education and culture. So we are from the university to support the local government in this regard. Ministry of Manpower, or BLK, at the province and city level to upgrade the skill of the workers. For example, now we that digital marketing or e-commerce is very popular. So to get
have trouble in
Pak. And actually, this 3 countries, we have our own platform for marketing in Indonesia. Tokopedia, Shopee, also like so we can collaborate together. From the university, we have each university in each region of the province. For example, Prof. Elfindri also mentioned that in the Andalas University can support the province of Sumatra Barat, for example, and we are in Syakwala support in Aceh. Another comment is from us, from the university. We have now the Campus Merdeka. So it is a good opportunity also for the university in Indonesia to collaborate with our partners in Malaysia and Thailand for the internship program, so that our students not really to study inside the university, but they can work outside the university, even with the private sectors. I think that Ibu Putri, we are from the Uninet. We have like 25 members altogether now. We work together hand in hand to how to skill levels from our country.
Thank you, Dr. Muzailin, for your comment and also suggestion. I took note that the issue on internships for the students in university is your concern. Well, also you're raising the issue on the training itself, the collaboration among the university in terms of the institutional, and also you also raised the importance of Uninet in this IMT-GT to continue our work on building the capacity of our young people. So thank you, Dr. Muzailin. May I now invite other delegates from Indonesia, perhaps, to raise some proposal. We have Dr. Ali from Vocational Training Center in Medan, North Sumatra. Would you like to ask something, please? Dr. Ali?
Okay, thanks a lot, Ibu Putri, for the time has given to me. It is a very good opportunity to hear from all the speakers just now. It is very interesting. And from my side, as head of Vocational Training Center in Medan, which is a vocational training under the Ministry of Manpower, I can take some point that we agree all that train our employee or even our fresh graduate is very important after pandemic, I think. And as you may aware that the Indonesian government just launched what we call pre-employment card, as mentioned by the speaker just now. And during the pandemic, only online training center that offer at the moment by the managing of this pre-employment card. And we all aware that only certain training center can participate in this training, because as you know, especially for training center in Indonesia, we are very good in doing offline training, but we don't have any experience a lot in doing online training. And fortunately, PTC Medan, the only one training center under the Ministry of Manpower, can participate in the training center offered by the pre-employment card, because we have initiated last year to introduce what we call hybrid learning in PTC Medan. So through this occasion, I think one thing that we have to highlight as well, how to help each other among Malaysia, Indonesia, and I think Thailand to help each other how to develop a kind of training that introduce what we call maybe online training. During the pandemic, of course, we cannot do a conventional way of doing training, and therefore we understand that we are very lacking experience in doing online training, and therefore the support from each countries is very important to make sure that we can still running their training, as we all already mentioned just now. And also, of course, we have to make sure that we are safe from the virus that still spread at the moment. I think that's the point that I can highlight from this conference. Thank you very much, Bu Putri.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. Dr. Ali, the director from Vocational Training Center in Medan, North Sumatra. He highlights that BLKU Vocational Training Center in Medan is stand ready to cooperate with Malaysia and Thailand on the skills training, especially on the digital training. I think it's very important also that the digital training as a main vehicle of our learning and capacity building during this pandemic COVID-19 can also be considered for our collaborations. And top on that is also the digital marketing is also very important to collaborate in terms of empowering the young people and young entrepreneur to keep continue learning and working on this hurtful situation. Anybody would like to ask him or
Madam Chairman, can I add in a little bit point?
Okay, please.
Hi. Okay. After listening some of the inputs, which is very valuable, looking at issues in terms of online training, talking about digital platform. What I feel based on my experience, our experience actually during the COVID-19, we were hard pressed in terms of human interaction, whereby we couldn't see our clients. Some of our projects has been held. Some of our clients have basically reviewed the contracts. But what we did is we came up with new startup models that encourages people to participate. One of my initiatives that has been done is actually online learning called creatify.my, which we were surprised. It was basically what we call it a test model that we did. But to our surprise, within we took almost about 2 weeks to develop the platform, leveraging all these video conference software. And to our surprise, we found that within 3 weeks, we've managed to do almost 20 classes with an average of 15 to 20 youngsters coming on board for the training, just like that. So like what I mentioned just now, is actually through this situation where people are basically pushed to adopt technology. The next part is in terms of the digital platform. When you talk about the working relation or coming up with the platform between three countries, the digital platform is actually a very conducive model to be introduced, whereby when we talk about getting data, getting information, this is actually the time for you to build. When you start building now, because there is no movement, people are still encapsulated and basically focused on digital model. This is the time for you to get people on board with coming up with specific modules and to have a standardized model for ID model, basically to manage all the users to be using all the features and functionalities. So like I said again, in terms of technology, there's so many technology is available out there in the market. But what we have to basically address is actually what model are we introducing to all the market. That is the first thing. And actually, how are we going to get these people on board the platform to basically create the ecosystem? Then you can push a lot of agenda into the platform whereby you have the captured market, whether you are talking about entrepreneurship, whether you are talking about upskilling of training, whether you are talking about virtual learning. But the fundamental here is actually to create the digital platform. And currently, what I can see right now, everyone is well aware of the internet. Everyone is aware of video conferencing. Everyone is aware of mobile app development. So I feel that the first part is actually to basically understand the right model, get the inputs from the people on the ground, on the training centers, universities, and industry, to devise and come up with the model to basically define the digital market before inserting the different types of module. Then the adoption of technology. So I think I hope that we want to see a positive impact by this conference. And should there be any question or inputs that you require, I'll be happy to come on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Bapak Nasrul. I guess the issues that you just raised is very important. The online learning and also digital platform is also one of the model that we have to continue promote in our collaboration, especially when in this moment that we cannot meet face to face, that we cannot we have restrictions to mobilize, the using of technology is becoming more and more important. In relation with this issue, I also got a note from one of the delegates who is in charge on the VTC network. Remember that VTC network is one of our activity under the IMT-GT IB or the blueprint. We have Mr. Fikri from Ministry of Manpower Indonesia, who also would like to respond to what Mr. Rasrul just raised on the digital training or digital platform. Mr. Fikri, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Ibu Putri, distinguished delegates, and Honorable CIMT Secretariat. I would like to convey some issue regarding what Pak Nazrul has informed us. Well, Indonesia is now realizing that the digital platform for online training is a very important platform that we should develop. But actually, we are planning to develop our VTC to implement online and blended learning this year. But due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we are quote unquote pushed to accelerate the implementation of online training and blended learning. Well, we have a success story from our colleague in BLK Medan, Bapak Ali, that already implement the online training through the pre-employment part program, and we also encouraging our vocational training center also others to implement online and blended training. We are still evaluating the implementation of the online training because we are just beginning to implement this kind of training, and we hope in the future in this cooperation platform we can cooperate to share our best practices in implementing online and blended training. And also Pak Nasrul already said that everybody now also already aware of the internet, and Indonesia is also a very large country, and we have also issues on road infrastructures and others. But I think by implementing online on blended learning, we can increase the access of our youth to training. And if I may, Madam Chair, I would like also to convey some updates on our plan in the implementation of a workshop of pedagogy for baristas. We are planning the workshop to be offline workshop with maybe some demonstration of making a good coffee and things like that. But since the situation in Indonesia, maybe in Malaysia and Thailand, is the COVID-19 is quite low now, but in Indonesia we are still facing a huge number of COVID-19 active patients. But hence we still cannot decide if we can implement the workshop this year or not. But I hope the situation will get better, and maybe through Madam Chair Ibu Putri, we will convey the updates on the implementation of the workshop as soon as possible. Maybe that's all that I can convey, Bu Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you Bapak Fikri from Ministry of Manpower Indonesia to respond to what Bapak Nazrul concerns on the digital platform. I feel that we have a very good spirit and motivations to continue working and collaborate among all of us by using and maximizing the use of technology in this not uneasy situation posed to the pandemic COVID-19. So the training, the reskilling, upskilling, the skills training by using digital platform is quite interesting to consider as our instant activity in this year. I also took a note from Mr. Fikri about the continue activity on the VTC network that already put in our blueprint. In barista training, Indonesia still continue to invite participants from Malaysia and Thailand who have offline workshops in this year. But just because of the pandemic, the workshop will be postponed. But perhaps a month or 2 months before end of this year, we can update to Malaysia and Thailand whether we can continue the agenda or not. So thank you, Mr. Fikri, for updating this issue. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we already coming into the end of this meeting, but before we closing the meeting, I would like to invite Dr. Firdaus Dahlan, the Director of CIMT, to deliver a summary or wrap up of this discussion. Mr. Firdaus, please.
Thank you, Ibu Putri. First of all, allow me to convey my appreciation, also gratitude, and also to congratulate Ibu Putri in the way how you moderate the discussion. It is very effective and also very interesting one as well. So thank you, Ibu Putri, for your skillful in this in moderating in this session. So for the summary of this our conference, I would like to try to summarize some point, but of course it is not the comprehensive one due to limited of time. We will share with you later on the summary of the minute of the meeting that we can share to all of our colleagues and also members of IMT-GT. Indeed, from the beginning, when we discuss about the sharing experience from related ministries in each of the countries, so we understand that each of the countries already taken various measures how to contain the COVID-19. We understand that the COVID-19 already affected our economy, and the consequences is due to the closures or the collapse of the business. So there is also the increased rate of unemployment in each of the country that we already hear from each of the member states presented just now. The thing is now is how we can mitigate this problem. So the answer for us is how we can respond for this one, of course, how to promote capacity building program. So from the discussion just now, we can conclude that the capacity building program is very important for us now under the COVID-19 and also post-COVID-19. As mentioned by our colleague as well just now, capacity building not necessarily have to have a class, physical class, but nowadays we can use also the disruptive technology, online training program also one of the choice, one of the option that we can do together. So in this regard, I would like also to pick up one of the point mentioned by our scholar, Professor Elfindri, the need for us now to IMT-GT for the new, to take the new approach in order to contain or to reduce the impact of COVID-19 in our sub-region. One of the things that we may agree that how we can strengthen our collaboration in terms of the training center. Training center from each of the local or district can make collaboration with the others in the 3 countries. So collaboration in the future is a must for us in order to reduce the impact of COVID-19 and also to upscale and reskill our workers in the future. In our region, we have also very potential one, actually, this UniNet. UniNet, as mentioned by our colleague from just now, is university network, and we have 25 universities now. So in terms of the training program, for the next, how we can empower as well UniNet in collaboration with working group. working group, HRD, and UNINET. This is also very important for us in the future, and we have to promote more collaboration among of those university with our policymakers in the sub-region. Another thing pointed out by our speakers also how we can leverage to the ASEAN MRA. Since IMT-GT as a members of the ASEAN member countries, we have already MRA, and we have to implement as well MRA in our sub-region. Another thing highlighted by our speakers in our discussion today, especially from businessman point of view, there are 4 focus areas that I can conclude here. And number 1, the importance of capacity building again, and then how we can be able to utilize the technology, and then also about the global reach and data driven. This is also very important for us in coming years, and in order to reduce the impact of COVID-19 on human resources in the sub-region. So Ibu Neti, due to the limited of time, I cannot make it a comprehensive one. However, I think at least there is some point mentioned by our speakers now. And then again, on behalf of CMT, I would like to convey our gratitude to all speakers. Your contribution is very important, very valuable in order to strengthen collaboration in the sub-region on HRD. Ibu Putri, distinguished participants, speakers, now I think that due to the time limitation, allow me to invite Ibu Putri, the chair of the working group or HRDEC, to convey his closing remark. Ibu, time is yours now.
Thank you, Bapak Firdaus, Dr. Firdaus, the Director of CIMT, for your summarizing of this meeting. I took some notes that the importance for us to continue collaborate on the capacity building. Again, maximizing the use of technology is very, very important in this moment. And also the issue on mutual recognition arrangements. Very much interesting for us to continue working on among Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. Before I close this meeting, I just would like to remind all of us here that we're gonna have a working group meeting on human resources development, education, and culture in August. The date is to be confirmed, will be on the 13th August. The host of this meeting will be Malaysia, and the chairperson of the meeting will be Indonesia as the chair of this working group. So a formal invitation, I believe, will be circulated by CIMT before the 13th of August, but also the date will be confirmed by Malaysia as the host of this meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, the head of delegations from Malaysia, Dr. Rizwan Kuzairi, and your delegation, the head of Thailand, Ms. Sasitron Wongomer-Stokit, the delegations from GBZ, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, the resource speakers, and also CIMT brother and sisters from the 3 countries. As the chairperson of this special meeting, I would like to say thank you very much for your participation, your attention, your spirit, your motivations, your energy to keep continue, discuss, and working with us under our working group on human resources development, education, and culture of IMT-GT. I believe that even though we just having quite difficult situations because of the pandemic COVID-19 and the pandemic has just impacted to our labor market and our employment, but we have to continue working and collaborate. We believe that the recovery process, the new norm, we will facing these situations with our good spirit, and we will believe that we can have a very good recovery moment in our employment. So on behalf of the chairperson of this meeting, I would like to say thank you very much for the discussion, very fruitful discussion during our meeting today. So once again, by saying Alhamdulillahirabbil Alamin, thank you to the God and thank you for all of you. Closing this meeting. Thank you. Have a good lunch.
Thank you.
Stay healthy, stay productive, stay happy. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bu Putri. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, NS, from 3 countries and also speakers. You are amazing persons. Thank you so much for your valuable contribution on
You
this.
also, you also very good, Dr. Firdaus. Thank you very much for your support and facilitation. Thank you also for Ibu Rubita and other sisters and brothers in CMT. Stay happy.
Thank you, CMT too.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, CMT. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Aku telepon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Oh, Dr. Sulina. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah.